Hey y'all! So today I'm going to be doing a look duping the Naked Honey palette. I worked really hard on this and I'm so excited to share this with you. When the Naked Honey palette was first released, I feel like it was getting a lot of flack. A lot of people were like, this palette's really boring, blah, blah, blah. And like secretly I was like, I think it's kind of pretty. Then more people started to get the palette, the tide started to change, and a lot of people were really enjoying the palette a lot and how beautiful it was. I'm not gonna lie, I have a bit of FOMO. So I kind of got cracking in my collection and I decided that I wanted to try to dupe it. I happened to pull out my Colourpop palettes because I have a pretty good variety of them. I feel like a lot of people can afford Colourpop, have a good Colourpop collection, or have means of acquiring Colourpop. I know it's a really beloved brand. So I just kind of pulled out my Colourpop palettes, but I would encourage you to just pull out your palettes in general. I'm sure that if I were to pull out a different brand or even a variety of palettes from my collection, I probably could have done the same thing with other palettes. If you don't have these specific palettes, it doesn't mean that you can't dupe this palette too. I think you probably can, depending on your collection. Pretty much if you have these Colourpop palettes, I'm going to share with you 99.9%, I think, you can dupe the Naked Honey palette. And I'm actually going to be recreating a look that I found on Instagram, which I will go ahead and tag the artist. We're going to see if we can create the exact same look with my dupe palette. So will put me to the test today. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, go ahead and stay tuned. We're going to get into it now. Let's get into the palettes. So in my arsenal today, I have 6 Colourpop palettes and a Super Shock. So the first palette we're going to be using today is the Colourpop Honey palette. We're also going to be using the Zodiac palette with Kathleen Lights and Colourpop. Thirdly, we're going to be tapping into the Rendezvous palette. We're also going to be using the Double Entendre, the Yes Please. Our last palette is the Misunderstood palette, and the single Super Shock Shadow in Blaze. This was also a collaboration with Kathleen Lights. So let's go ahead and swatch them for you. And I'm going to go through the palette. So if we were to imagine the Naked Honey palette from left to right, we're going to go through the swatches in that order so that they can match right up with the palette. So the first color in the Naked Honey palette is called Flyby. It's a light shimmery white color. For that, we're going to be using the Rendezvous palette, the shade My Treat, which is right here. Next, the color Sweet in the Naked Honey palette can be duped with the Zodiac palette. And that color is going to be a light blush . For our third color, which is Swarm in the Naked Honey palette, we have the Honey palette, and we have the shade Totally Buggin', which is this shade here. And this is a matte, kind of like mustardy yellow color. The next Naked Honey shade would be Amber, and for that we have the Villains palette in Pain and Panic. And this is a little bit of a shimmery shade. It's a little bit of like a wetter feeling formula. It's really beautiful. The next shade in the Naked Honey palette would be called Keeper, and that can be duped with the Yes Please palette in the shade Note to Self, which is this shade right here. And this is a matte, kind of like peachy brown. The next shade for the Naked Honey palette would be the shade Golden, the Honey palette. And the shade here would be Queen Bee, which is this shade right here. We have the shade Honey, and that is also in the Honey palette. And it is the shade Dandy, which is this shade right here. This is a brighter yellow gold. It's very pretty. Then we have the shade Queen from the Naked Honey palette, and that can be duped with the Colourpop Shadow Blaze. We swirl this. I hunted for this color all evening, and then I was like, let me check my Super Shocks. Next, in the Naked Honey palette, we have the shade Hive, and that can be duped in the Zodiac palette with the shade Taurus, which is this color here. That's like a caramelly brown. Then in the Naked Honey palette, we have the shade Drip, which can be duped with the shade from the Rendezvous palette. And that's the shade Want You Back, which is right here. It's like more of like a red tone brown. And then we have two left. We have HBIC from the Naked Honey palette, and that can be duped with the Double Entendre palette in the shade Draft, which is this color right here. And then our last one is the shade Sting in the Naked Honey palette, which can be duped with the Zodiac palette in the shade Virgo. Today's look, I'm going to be duping a look done on Instagram by Aileron Beauty. I'll go ahead and link her Instagram below and share her pictures with you guys. She had a beautiful, simple look that I thought would be perfect for today. She also was kind enough in her post to list which colors she used in which area of her eye, so we're going to follow it to the T. So the first color she mentioned using was the Transition Color Sweet. And for that, we have the Virgo color from the Zodiac palette. So I'm just going to tap in with a Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH33. Also, I want to apologize for my nails. I injured my back, and I actually went to 2 different doctor's appointments. I have a pinched nerve. I couldn't even sit down last weekend to film. I couldn't sit without pain. So I couldn't also sit at the nail salon and get my nails done. For those of you that might be curious or care, that's why. And this color makes a beautiful transition color. The next color that she went in with was for her crease. And for that, she used the shade Keeper, which is actually in our Yes Please palette. It's the shade Note to Self. That is this color right here. And we're just gonna go ahead and continue to build up the crease. So for our third color, we're gonna work on the inner and outer lid. And for that, we're gonna use the shade Drip. Drip is the shade Want You Back, which is this shade right here from the Rendezvous palette. For that, I'm gonna go with a smaller brush, and we're gonna work that on the inner and outer lid. I'm just kind of placing that right where I want it, and then we'll blend it a little bit. We're moving to the outer corner. And I like the shades that she used to create depth. And I like that it's a simple look as well. And while it takes a little bit more work to go through your collection and to check online and swatch your palettes, it does save you, what, $55 or something? Urban Decay is pretty rich. They don't need my money too. You know what I mean? That's the way I think of it. And they don't need yours either. Not if you have these palettes or similar colors in your collection. So now we're gonna go into the center lid. And for that, we're gonna use Pain and Panic from the Misunderstood palette. So I'm gonna just use my fingers and kind of tap into the center of the lid. Okay, so I'm gonna go finish up my eyes and I'll be right back. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how I recreated the Naked Honey palette with Colourpop dupes. I want to wish you all a super happy Thanksgiving and let you know how thankful I am for all of you. I love you all so much. So until the next video.